All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. This is our first 45-25 live event of the year, and I'm excited about this program, of course, and we got a great year planned.
I'm excited too, and before we start, Brian, I have a question for you. Are you feeling mediocre or maximized?
No. I feel good. I mean, I'm inspired. I guess if I'm being totally honest, I may not be fully maximized.
So you're coasting? What, you're 5-6 years senior rabbi, and it's just kind of like play it out from here, just phone it in? Is that where we're at?
I thought you were talking about my personal life.
Again, I'm kidding with you. He's doing a great job. Don't we think he's doing a great job? Yeah. Hey, wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That was more than one person. And you know what? You're doing a great job, and I would even say that you're looking pretty sharp. And I'd even say that's a cool shirt. And you have, I know you had that one cool shirt, and you wore it to that party last weekend. But is that new?
Hell yeah! I got Greg Sheinman in the house. I mean, come on. It's Midlife Male. He's here. I went out and bought another shirt.
I mean, I get it. We've been fortunate to have some pretty impressive, pretty badass people that we've been able to interview here. And Scheinman's, he's up there on the top of that list. I'd even say he can even be a little intimidating. And there may be some moments during our discussion where, we may feel a little insecure, a little inadequate maybe.
Like the second he sits next to us?
Exactly.
All right. Should we still bring him out?
No, actually, we shouldn't bring him out. What else could we do? Of course we're going to bring him out. No, we're super excited to have Greg here tonight.
Well, I'm honored tonight. Our guest tonight is Greg Sheinman. He's a performance coach, an entrepreneur, an author. He's a founder, creator, and writer of a great Midlife Male podcast. Speaks to men and women, a weekly newsletter with 14,000 followers and counting. His candid, no BS content offers inspiring advice on aging, success, personal growth, and navigating midlife. He's also a great husband, father, and all-around great guy. Let's give a warm Beth Yeshurun welcome to our friend, Greg Sheinman.
My whole week's put with dinner plans, but I still feel like a kid. I'm about to be a married man, but I still feel like...
Greg, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. As Brian said, this is our first program of the year. And we really especially appreciate you coming out with your shirt on and not emasculating us like right off the bat. That was a fear of ours. We said, I don't know, he may come out without a shirt on.
It could happen, but it won't. It absolutely won't.
First question. What do you think of Brian's shirt?
Brian set me up. Brian sent me an email asking me where I like to shop locally, as if he needed tips for this. So I sent him to Suit Supply, and he looks very dapper right now.
This shirt is from Suit Supply. I was there on Sunday.
Wonderful. Well done. It is officially Midlife Male approved.
I do have a follow-up, but what about the shoes? Yeah.
They're from Israel.
I mean, they work for him, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's a compliment. Yeah. On the shoes? All right. Well, if my wife gives me a 5, that's good. That's like a 20.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
All right. So, not a 5 in general. No. Okay. So, Greg, before we move on, what would you say to someone who wants to be fashionable but doesn't necessarily know what their style is? I'm asking for a friend.
We're going to start here. This just feels, I really was saying before, I don't do local gigs, actually. And I haven't since inception of this property that started out. So this just feels a little different, actually. We had a conversation amongst friends who think they might know more about me than they actually do, and I don't want to give up everything about me, but we will. You're probably better off reading it or somewhere in here. But yeah, we can start here. I mean, look, style to me is all about confidence. It's all about what makes you feel like you. I mean, some guys rock the power suit and that works for them, and other guys feel more comfortable and confident in jeans and a t-shirt. And at least that was my experience, and why I get asked about fashion a lot, and why it became one of the 6 F's that I talk about and that I've written about. And it's not so much about fashion or being on the cover of GQ or any of that, as it is about developing personal confidence, owning your personal brand, wearing, and what you put on your body, what you put in your body. These things actually matter, whether you're forward-facing or public eye or not. You get sized up. You know, you get sized up by people anywhere you go the second you leave your house, or now on social media and everywhere else. So how do you perceive yourself, and how do you want to be perceived by others? And that comes down to, hey, how do you present yourself? So my feeling is whatever makes you feel like the best version of yourself is what you go with, and then get a good tailor.
Well, and just segue that conversation some more. You said fashion, one of your 6 F's, and we'll get through all of them, and fitness the other. But both of those having to do with how you're talking about your confidence, how you're feeling, and this is you write about it, you post about it, you're very candid about it. And you do, we're teasing you, but you take a lot of pictures, and you post a lot about your, is it shirt on, shirt off, but no, you have an interesting perspective about it. And like you said, some people may think they know you about what they may think about you for posting pictures of yourself. But let's talk about that.
Where do you want me to start?
No,
exactly.
just kind of. I mean, what is your thought when you're putting something out there like that? How does it? It makes you feel a certain way, and it's invoking something in other people as well.
It's changed over the years. First of all, now, because I get to do this full time, I can say, I can post, I can do whatever I want. Having that kind of freedom right now is unique and really special. When I was working, quite frankly, when I was a partner in a firm, or when I had other businesses and I had clients, and there was a greater responsibility, or at least a fear of how I was putting myself out there, what I could do, what I could say, what I couldn't, and that was really inhibiting, and that was really one of the things that I struggled with for a long time, was that kind of identity crisis, what I had to wear and what I had to do, and look the part and act the part and play the game, and none of that really worked for me. So I was always at that intersection of looking for where I could combine personal passion with professional expertise, and how could I get to that place where I could do what I wanted to do the way I wanted to do it, with who I wanted to do it with for as long as I wanted to do it. And I was never great with authority, there. So it's different now that I get to speak freely. And as far as it's easier to write, it's absolutely easier to sit in my backyard on a Sunday morning and write whatever I want, unfiltered and unguarded, and put it out there. And once I hit send, you never see it again. I mean, yeah, you get feedback and everything now, and it went from a tree falling in the woods to thousands of people, and every Sunday morning I wake up and you can't even answer all the emails that come back in, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? And it's the same with social, and it's the same with speaking. It's much easier to get up on stage, I think, in front of hundreds of people that you don't know, actually, and they call it the dummy monitor out there, and you just read, basically, and you make eye contact and you go, and then you leave. It's much harder when you know the people, I think, and you see the people there. And that's also something that I struggle with a lot. This doesn't make me comfortable at all. But being in my garage, working out by myself or with my friends when they come over, being in my sauna, walking around without my shirt on at home, those things are comfortable for me. Writing what I want to write, speaking to people with a microphone in front of me or a screen, that stuff actually really works. And it's not that I'm playing a character, but it's amped up a little bit. There's a bit of a difference than seeing all the faces and the people again that I know and going, oh shit, that's, do I say that? Do I go there? Or do we really have to have that conversation about Little League? Are you really gonna ask me what I think about this or that? Because I'm gonna tell you, that's the problem. That's the double-edged sword of it, or at least the challenge, that if you want this to go well, the key is to be authentic, the key is to be transparent, the key is to be vulnerable, and the key is whether it lands well or not, like, you just got to say what you really think. You got to have an opinion and see where it goes.
I mean, it is amazing. I mean, I love your writing. I think it's great. It's authentic, it's bold, it's unapologetic, it's unfiltered. When you're not afraid to express what you really feel. And it's amazing how much you're putting out there. I mean, I can somewhat relate because I know what it's like to get to write every week, and the expectations are high. But how do you structure yourself? I mean, what's your week like? If you're out of town on a Sunday, like, how do you make up for it? Or you're constantly having to produce new and authentic stuff. So how do you do it? How do you come up with all this?
I think it's a great way. It started with me that I didn't have the answer to that question. I really didn't have the answer to any of the questions. And when you don't know the answers to the questions you have, you start to seek out people that can hopefully help you get the answers to the questions that you have. I mean, I got the why part. Like, there's all this find your why and all that. I get the why. The why is easy. Like, why you want to be a better husband, why you want to be a better father, why you want to make more money, why you want to have more sex, why you want to be in better shape. The why is like easy. It's the how that hangs us up. And I didn't get the how part, so putting the pieces together was really difficult. So that's what actually led to the podcast. The podcast started before the newsletter, and it was seeking out these experts in various fields that I was interested in. You know, if it was being a better husband and father, like, how do I seek out, doctors and experts and people that have had success, in those areas? If it was fitness, and get them on and have those conversations. And then I built my operating system around the answers that I got. One of the principles that was in the book, and we can go through these, is like aggregate, curate, and eliminate. You can aggregate from all the information that is out there, but the key is you've got to curate it down to what works for you, and then you've got to eliminate the rest. And I just started doing that in each one of these categories and saying, okay, what does my metric of success look like for family? What does it look like for fitness? What does it look like for health? And write it all down, and then once you had the plan, you could just follow the plan. Because I'm like a golden retriever. It's like you throw the frisbee, bring it back. Like, as long as there's a plan, I can follow it. The hard part was actually getting the plan, and I spent probably the first 47 years without a plan. And that's why things weren't going so hot.
Well, and yeah, actually, that's a great place to move to where we want to get into. There's a lot to unpack here with your background, and we wanted to both professionally, personally. So we wanted to let's tackle and let's go on the professional part of it, career-wise. I guess, is it fair to say you didn't kind of grow up going, I want to be a midlife male coach, and I'm biding my time till I'm 45, and then I'm just going to, burst out in that? Fair?
It's very fair. None of this has been a straight line, and if you'd have told me even that I'd be married with kids living in Houston, Texas, and would have said bet the under, from where I was born and raised and how things were going to go.
So you grew up in New York.
So yeah, I grew up in Great Neck, Long Island, and born and raised there. I've got 2 younger brothers, and really where it started, well, I mean, we had nowhere to go but down. Right, John? Right, okay. We're related, by the way. We just found that out tonight, okay? Yes. But where I grew up, there was nowhere to go but down. And it was very entitled, and really it was not reality, and experienced no hardship whatsoever for the vast majority of my upbringing until my dad got sick and got cancer when I was 16. And he ultimately passed away when I was 17, right before I was leaving for college. So when you lose your best friend, when you lose your mentor, not only your father figure, but your father, like this really did a number on all of us. And it was right around the time that I was leaving for college. So I didn't have any of my really close friends with me who understood it. I was off in Michigan. Nobody really got it. And I had nobody paying any attention to me whatsoever. So, and there was no more family business. There was nothing like that. So I really didn't know what I was going to do, even going through college, except to try to finish and have as much fun as I possibly could and mask all the trauma and mask all the pain and just like bury it and just keep moving forward. And I thought, because I was having all this fun, that what sounded like fun was the entertainment business. So I might as well go into the entertainment business, and I don't have to wear a suit, and we can make movies, and we can do all that. And that's what I went after first.
And you, and that's really interesting because your first job was with Miramax and working with Harvey Weinstein of all people.
Yes, I landed on Harvey's desk as my first job right out of college, as his fourth assistant. I was he had 3 at the time. He was adding number 4. I was bartending at the time, and I got called in for an interview with the other 3 assistants, not with actually Harvey.
Male or female?
So I'll give you that. So I got the job because I was able to make them all drinks in the private office over there, and I got hired that way as number 4. The number 3 assistant was a female, and he refused to travel with a female for relatively obvious reasons at this point, 30 years later. The other 2 were male. One of them was getting shipped off to London. I'm not sure whether that's because he knew too much or what. One of them was going to London, and the other one only handled his political stuff. So I became number 4, which entailed waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting picked up by his driver, carrying 2 packs of True Blue cigarettes, a 12-pack of Diet Coke, multiple cell phones, and a bag full of scripts. And I was from Manhattan to Westport every day for almost 2 years.
And then how did that work itself out?
So I was young and again, naive about everything, and I had the glorious distinction of telling him to F off 30 years before the rest of the world did. He was on the list of worst people to work for in America when I got the job. I will say he didn't do anything illegal when I was with him. He just was not a good guy. And I left after 2 years and took a couple of scripts with me that I was allowed to take and produced a few independent features.
Is this the 2 Ninas? And you have to pronounce the other one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so the first one was a movie called 2 Ninas, which was, it was about a guy dating 2 women with the same name in New York. It was kind of a Woody Allen-esque feature, and a bunch of us New York actors, producers, wannabes had become friends, and we put an amazing cast together. And it was written by a guy named Neil Turitz, who's gone on to write a number of different things. The lead was a guy named Ron Livingston, who was in Swingers and Office Space, if you saw that. Amanda Peet was one of the Ninas, and Cara Bono was the other one. She was most recently on Mad Men. And we had this amazing cast of young up-and-comers at the time, and it went on and won a few film festivals, and that was kind of the start of what I thought I was going to do, and I was able to dedicate the film to my dad, and that was a big goal of mine, and then the next one, I still haven't even seen it to this day. It was a hip-hop movie called Boricua's Bond, and like Boricua's like Puerto Rican and something, and we shot this thing in the South Bronx, and it was with Naughty by Nature and the Wu-Tang Clan and Big Pun before he passed away, rest in peace, Big Pun. And it was, and so we literally like paid half the cast in marijuana. It was insane. And that's what we did in our early 20s, and that got sold to USA Films, and it was another solid film. But I didn't like the lifestyle overall.
So were you starting to wane on the whole, filmmaking situation at that point?
A little bit of be careful what you wish for. It's like they say, it's like they don't pay you for the acting they produce, they pay you for the waiting. There was a lot of waiting around. You had to raise money, you had to put it together. They were really long days. They weren't particularly very healthy days. And I didn't really like it. And didn't really know, again, what I was going to do next. And thematically throughout my life, really had nobody to go to ask. And I wasn't good at asking, wasn't good about seeking out help or being vulnerable or figuring out how to get from one place to the next. I just kind of did it. Film and entertainment wasn't working, so what am I going to do next, if we want to go there?
Yeah, so you met Kate. And Kate, thanks for being here tonight. It's great to have your wife here.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You're part of this too, right? And you came here to Houston. This is Kate from here, grew up here. And you had a stint with a local TV network before launching your first entrepreneurial business, Teen Baby. So, and Michael Eisner actually caught his eye. What was Teen Baby? So we met at the Sky Bar of the Mondrian Hotel, Kate and I. 25 years ago. It's our 23rd anniversary tomorrow. Okay? So I literally fell over her in a drunken stupor at the Sky Bar of the Mondrian Hotel, out there trying to sell that film
because that's how you did it before there was Netflix and everything. You literally had to do screenings every night to try to sell territory by territory. And I thought I just found like a really hot blonde for the weekend. And again, so again, if you told me this is where I was going to be 23 years later, like that was not in the plan, certainly not that weekend. So here we are. But I did not want to move back to New York. I wasn't a lifer in New York. It didn't have particularly great memories for me. I was a runner. I was a runner from my past. I was a runner from my hometown. I didn't want to be there really anymore. It reminded me of my dad. It reminded me of a lot of what we lost. And I couldn't keep that up. So Houston was where we decided to live. For me, people were nice here. And I also didn't know them, So I was anonymous. And there was no history, and there was no preconceived notions, and there was no worrying about whether I was going to succeed or fail, or comparison to what my family had or did, or any of these other situations. So it felt right to be here. But I didn't know anybody. Fortunately, Kate had really good friends who had nice husbands, but I had no idea what I was going to do when I got here, which led me to do the only thing I could do. Was I knew one guy, Steve Wasserman, who ran Channel 2 here, and I called Steve, and I said, hey, I'm in Houston, and I only know how to make things, and you seem to, there's no movie and there's no business that I know here. Do you have a job for me? And he was cool enough to give me a job, and he created one. And I ran non-traditional revenue generation for Channel 2 for a couple of years, which meant just make things. And we broke sales records at the station, which was really, really cool. And I'll always be grateful for him for that. And along the way, we had our first child, our son, Auden. And we were watching Baby Einstein in Sesame Street. And back then, there was picture-in-picture in the TVs. And I only wanted to watch ESPN and SportsCenter. So ESPN was in the corner, and Baby Einstein and all that stuff was on there. And I'm like, I can do this. Like, there's got to be other dads like me who want to watch sports and highlights way more than they want to watch puppets and classical music and all this other stuff. So I was like, what if I took the two of them and merged them together, and we became the Baby Einstein of the sports world with Team Baby Entertainment. And we created this line of DVDs, and I went to all the leagues and asked them for their footage, and nobody had ever asked them for their footage before to be used in a children's, say, brainwashing DVD. Is what we ended up known. Raising tomorrow's generation of fan today was the tagline, and all the pediatricians said, that's just brainwashing, is what that is. We said, okay. So they gave me all the footage for free, and all these teams and schools and professional teams started sending all their merchandise, memorabilia, carte blanche to everything. And I started shooting these DVDs at a tiny little studio in Houston. I was there like all day. I don't know if anyone's kids were in them, of our friends. We recruited anybody that had a baby. Anybody that we knew in town, we just pimped their kid, like, bring your kids over. We'd put them in all different outfits. We had UT people saying, do not put my kid in an A&M outfit no matter what. Like, but we just cranked out DVD after DVD, and I was selling these things out of the trunk of my car, outside of football stadiums, and we got amazing press. And I put every dollar into PR. How could we seem bigger than we were? And matching celebrities that were fans of these teams to do the narration. And we grew and grew and grew. And ultimately, Michael Eisner, who had left Disney and had bought the Baby Einstein company, read an article about Team Baby in the LA Times. This is how it happened. And his assistant called me and said, hey, I'm Andy Redmond from Michael Eisner's company. He's not with Disney anymore, but I think he'd like to meet with you. We read this article in the LA Times. And I thought it was total BS. I thought I was being made fun of. And it turned out to be real. And he flew out to Houston, and this was, I think, part of the story that may actually be matter a little bit about kind of how you operate and how you do things and kind of how you perceive yourself and how you want to be perceived. And I remember Kate and I having this conversation that Michael Eisner was flying to Houston to meet me, private, all these other things.
No pressure.
And no pressure, right. And my office at the time was a little room in an MRI facility in a building that Scott Rubenstein owned, actually. And Scott gave me a tiny little room. And we had 2 computers and a coffee table that was held up by milk crates. And that was it. And every time they would use the MRI machines, the lights would flicker, and we'd have to make sure we saved all the stuff. And Kate and I were talking, should I rent an office? Should I get a hotel conference room? Like, what should we do? This is Michael Eisner. And Kate said, no. She's like, just let him see how you're doing it. And let him see how you're doing it, and he should know that you're scrappy, and that you built this thing up, and how you're piecing it together, and how well it's doing, and it's just you, and all this other right now. But get a deli platter. So Ziggy hooked us up from Kenny and Ziggy's with a deli platter, and I get the knock on the door that day, and it's his assistant. And he walks in, and it's this little guy from Princeton who has the MBA that runs Michael's life. And he's like, you're Greg? I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is Team Baby Entertainment? I'm like, yes, it is. Okay, like, are we ready? He goes, I'll be back in 2 minutes. And I'm convinced he's leaving and telling Michael we are getting out of here, okay? We're not coming in. But he came in and sat down, and we ended up talking for 3 hours. And we didn't talk for a second about business. We didn't talk about baby videos. We didn't talk about the deal. We didn't talk about anything. We talked about summer camp, because he wrote a book about summer camp. And we talked about him having 3 boys, and that I was one of 3 boys. And we talked about our parents, and we talked about my summer camp experience and his wife. And we talked for hours. And he ate the deli platter in there too. And he left. And when he landed in New York, a few hours later, I got a call from Andy saying that we're in and we're going to wire $2 million to your account. And we were pretty much broke at the time before that happened. And that's what started our partnership for 7 years. Mm-hmm.
So when you were doing all this, did you, you're obviously proven that you're willing to take some risks in the movie business and then starting a company, being an entrepreneur. I mean, when you're doing these things, are you perceiving them to be big risks, or are you just thinking this is just the way I'm wired, this is what I do? Because you went off the Jewish career grid of doctor, lawyer, financial advisor, rabbi. Ultimately you did kind of go, and that's the next phase you'll talk about here for a minute, is you did go into something a little more conventional. But as you're doing these things, what are you thinking?
I struggle and battle with imposter syndrome constantly. Nobody that works out like I do or care about the thing that it's not from abundance of confidence, it's from a galactic lack of confidence and security. So I never think I'm doing well enough. I rarely think I get it right. I don't sleep well. Even when things were going well with that company, it was always, when's the other shoe gonna drop? And when it did, unfortunately, it didn't really surprise me. It's kind of what I expected was eventually going to happen. I'll find a way to screw this up. The self-sabotage, and not really embracing and enjoying the ride along the way at all. And as quickly as we went up, and we went from a $2 million valuation to a $10 million valuation, that's as quickly as we plummeted. All of a sudden, the DVD business was becoming an antiquated business. Things were shifting to streaming. Licensing deals were changing. All the places we were putting the DVDs, Circuit City, KB Toys, Toys R Us, Borders Books, they were gone. And as quickly as I was sending out hundreds of thousands of DVDs, we were getting, it felt like twice as many back. And I remember having to fly to Tampa or wherever it was, somewhere, wherever Home Shopping Network was. Because they're like, we're going to put you on Home Shopping Network and right before college football season, and we're going to blow them out, over there. And I'd never done anything like that. And Michael set it up because he called Barry Diller, who owned Home Shopping Network. I'm like, how does this happen? And I'm out there like a used car salesman hawking DVDs on Home Shopping Network to try to save our ass, and we couldn't do it. And he called, and he said, look, we're done. We're done. And you're out, we're done. Here's, 20 cents on the dollar for the rest of your contract. And we failed. And that was exactly the way he said it. Put your big boy pants on and go.
Well, I know you went from that and then insurance. We can talk about that if you want, but then you got into this, right? You got into this podcasting and your newsletter and coaching, life coaching. So tell us how you got from there.
Yeah, so there's 14 years in between. So,
okay.
I mean, I didn't go into insurance willingly, okay? And I can say that now because we just sold the last bit of stock, okay? So the restrictions are off. And that was another reason I couldn't say what I really wanted to say for a very long time. And I was grateful for the opportunity, but I needed a job. I mean, we had blown through a lot. I mean, all of a sudden you go from $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, 1 kid in private school, 2 kids in private school, the Houstonian, cars, all of this shit. Sorry, can I say that? Sorry. And the next thing you know, like you have a considerable overhead and you have a lifestyle, and all of a sudden somebody's turned off the faucet in there too. So I didn't go from risk taker to risk manager willingly. I went there out of necessity, thinking I don't have another multi-million-dollar idea. The economy is not what it was. I don't want to leave Houston again and start over. We're happy here. What am I going to do now? And I got this opportunity that, hey, I could go over to this firm, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I could build a book of business. And it has everything that I didn't have before. It has benefits, It has, a 401k. I have no HR responsibility. All I have to do is just basically go sell. And I think I can do that. And there's residual income. That's another thing I didn't have before. All these things. So it checked a lot of the boxes. And I was somewhat led to believe that all I had to do was set it up and they would knock them down, in there. That wasn't exactly true, but I got there. And the smartest thing that I did that I will say was, when I got there, is I said, I don't want any money from you. I'm only going to eat what I kill. Okay? No draw, no anything. I'm not taking any money from you. But what I want is I want equity. I want a seat at the table if I produce. And I was fortunate enough that they made that deal. And I was fortunate enough that I could sell and hit the metrics. And I was given the equity in the business. And I got what I got, and I never got any more after that. And so there's that part that a lot of it is in the book, talking about like, what do you do? What do you get to do? What do you want to do? What do you have to do? What do you need to do at various times of your life? And how do you mitigate that risk? And ironically, my greatest financial success came from the thing that I was actually least passionate about doing and enjoyed the least. But it's the thing that now allows me to do what I get to do today. So there's a little bit of an irony to that when we sold the firm at the end of 2020, I'm the only one of the partners that left. And I didn't leave willingly either. I was asked to leave. Because they knew I didn't want to be there, and I knew I didn't want to be there.
So they liberated you, right? To be able to pursue something that you probably were like thinking, ultimately, how am I going to do this?
100%. I say, look, chasing authenticity where authenticity doesn't exist is exhausting. And I was exhausted. It wasn't me. And that takes its toll. So if you think success is chasing salary and title, and that's the common metric for guys, it didn't work for me. And that's when that transition came from chase salary and title and do all these things to what's really important. What are those 6 F's? Family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, fun. Put them in that order and go, okay, that's what total life wellness looks like. That's what a more holistic metric of success looks like. What if I chase that every day?
So along the way, you had the podcast, and how many podcast episodes have you done now, by the way?
253 straight weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing. A lot goes into that. So you were doing those while you were working and selling insurance, and that was something you obviously enjoyed. It was creative. It was also brought in that common piece of
I needed a
producing.
creative outlet.
Yeah.
In order to stay there, and Kate was like, you cannot quit. You cannot screw this up. Okay, like you need to stay. We need to get to the end of whatever the end looks like here. So that's when I started to record the podcast and use it as a creative outlet. And I could and first I used it to generate business. It wasn't branded as Midlife Male. It was all about risk takers. I would interview entrepreneurs and risk takers, spend the day with them, learn more about them than their current insurance broker ever knew about them, ask all these questions, and then take their business. They liked me, they knew me, they spent time with me, we asked the right questions, got the right answers, partnered up with them, and then they would refer me to other people, either to interview and spend time with and to be close to, and then 80% of the people that I interviewed for the first 2 years became clients of the firm.
So while you're doing all this, are you in your own mind, you write, you do a lot of journaling while you're doing this, were you like kind of refining and curating and you're learning from all these people what ultimately became your 6 F's of
Yeah, I was taking
optimizing?
notes on all of it. I was writing stuff down. I didn't put it out for a very long period of time because I was afraid of the ramifications, of the backlash, of the honesty. These are clients I liked. These are people I didn't like. This is why. This is how. This is what I was thinking going in. Is it, am I even interviewing and talking to these people like genuinely, because I care, or because am I just trying to earn premium because the premium gives me the commission and the commission keeps my kids in school and I'm not going to be in this business for very long anyway. Like, what are we really doing here? So all of that was in the book. All of that was being written down. And then slowly I started to leak that stuff out there. I started to pressure test, like, what would happen if I started putting it out there? If I sent a newsletter, if I put something out on LinkedIn, or if I put out on Facebook, what would happen? And it was really interesting. I think you attract and you repel exactly what you deserve. And that's exactly what happened. My clients turned over, like the ones that wanted me taking them out at night, drinking and going out. All of a sudden, like, those clients fired me because I had stopped drinking and started working out. All of a sudden, my new clients became people that I was working out with, and they did, like, it went kind of full circle. And it was really all about kind of connecting the dots of what I was learning from these people that I was interviewing and talking to, and then how was I going to apply that to make better choices. And that was the whole goal, was, can I make better choices the majority of the time? Because if you make the better choice the majority of the time, the majority of your life tends to get better. And I was not making the better choice, and I started to make better choices, things started to get better. So that was all I was trying to do each day. Again, being a simpleton, being the golden retriever, better one or better two. Better to get up and go work out or sleep in. Okay. Better to,
Chapter 14.
Yeah, there you go. And it was the eye doctor thing. I can't remember exactly. It was, they put the phoropter in front of your eyes and they ask you the question, better one or better two? And okay, and I have really bad eyes, and Kate bought me LASIK surgery for my 30th birthday. And okay, I can do this, better one or better two? And I started asking that question to every single thing that was happening in my life. Do I go through the drive-thru, or do I eat a healthy lunch today? Better one or better two? Do I, everything with everything. And it just worked.
So how do you measure yourself now? Because, when you were doing insurance, you could measure yourself by the sales metrics. But now you're writing this newsletter, you're influencing men and women all over now. How do you judge yourself now?
Harshly. If we're really being honest. We're just scratching the surface right now with where this can go, and this notion that we can stop seeing aging as something to fear and we can start seeing it as something aspirational. What can we do what can I do at 51? My dad was 47 when he passed away. And, when I got to 47, that was like a big goal for me. Like, now I'm in bonus time. I can either squander this, or we can pour some rocket fuel on this and we can do some really cool shit. And I didn't want to squander it. So that's when this really started to take place, 47 to 50. And now at 51, if you had said to me, like, you'd have all these readers and you would have all these subscribers, and now I'm working, I can say we as opposed to me sitting in the backyard, like that. I'm working with Adam Bornstein right now, who runs Arnold Schwarzenegger's media company, and he's working for me right now. And he ran Tim Ferriss's company, who I love, and he was the editor-in-chief at Men's Health magazine, and he's developing the Midlife Male media company, for us, that I'm texting with. It's not like I should pick up all the names I'm dropping, because that's really rude, sorry, but like I'm texting with Troy Aikman about ice baths and saunas and like which weight vest to use. Like what has happened over the last couple of years is incredibly, humbling.
You're up here with Strauss and Sheldon.
Hey, 45, 25 left.
Yeah, really.
You got me to do something in Houston. Like I could just that's tough. I'm trying not to cry. Ugh, this is awful. Sorry.
Well, do you find yourself you're less judgmental of yourself the more people you're able to help?
I take a lot of pride, and I really, really enjoy working with the guys that I'm working with now. And I'm somebody who is a pleaser. I want to please. I want to be liked. I want to be appreciated. That matters to me. I actually care what people think. You can write that you don't give a shit. You can play that off like you're intimidated. But you put that out there because it's really just masking all of the issues that you have. It's the air of confidence, or I've got this covered, or I can lift it, or I can climb it, or I can do it, is really just because you don't think you can, you don't believe you can. And you're trying to find that thing that makes you finally believe that you're worth it, like that this is okay or that this is enough. That's why I do it. Well, why did you climb the equivalent of Mount Everest last year? It sounded like a good challenge, why are you doing this stuff? Because it matters to me.
Okay, well, one quick, you mentioned, you alluded to it, but most of your clients are not in Houston.
I don't take local clients.
And why is that?
I don't want to see you. I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want you to come to my house or think you can join my workouts on Sunday. I don't want to see you at restaurants or at the gym. I don't want you to see, I'm not at my best. I don't want you to see, it's like the Wizard of Oz. I don't want you to see what's really going on over there.
And your clients, what do you get?
My clients are C-level guys that are in their 40s to 50s, and they're across the country, and they're typically, guys that are stuck. They're somewhere between that midlife crisis, and midlife awakening, and they have all the trappings of success, and they still feel like something is missing. And they want help with that. And they seem to want help from somebody who has done it. Not from a therapist or not from somebody who is just a coach or running some other playbook, but from somebody who has actually done it, who's actually made money, lost money. Somebody who's been out of shape and has changed. Somebody who has been drunk way too many times, and got himself cleaned up. And can we have those conversations? And can we talk about that? And can we help them develop their personal operating system, or what we call their map, their midlife action plan? How do we design what that looks like for them so that they can follow it?
So this is a good time. Can we got a few pictures that we wanted to go through, that different parts of your life, and you just give us a quick little snapshot of what we're seeing here.
So the left one was the INS Group corporate photo. That
insurance.
Yes, in the insurance days, that's what I had to look like if I showed up at the office, which was why I also didn't show up at the office very much.
Now, quickly, when we're looking at this, right, we see somebody who looks like they've gone through a metamorphosis. But from reading what you tell about yourself, you kind of call it you've been the same guy, but you released yourself instead of reinvented yourself. Is that?
Yeah, that's what comes up a lot. I think there's a lot of talk, there's a lot that's being written out there about reinventing yourself, and I don't think that that's accurate. For me, it wasn't so much as a reinvention as I say that it was a release. That I was always the guy. I just wasn't allowed or allowing myself to actually be who I really was. I was just trapped kind of in that role. It was not wrong or right. I mean, that's the playbook. You grow up, you go to school, you get married, you have kids, you get a job, you do all these things, and then all of a sudden you get the conformity, the complacency, the redundancy, and we've been here 15 years, and this it. And that is not a great place to be. And that's where I sat, at 47 on my 10-year anniversary with the firm in the parking lot going, I don't want to go inside. I've got the office on the 24th floor overlooking all of downtown Houston. I've got the equity. I've got the partnership. I've got the hundreds of thousands. It's rolling in, residual income. And I hate myself for having to do this. So that suit didn't make me feel good, putting that on. I mean, that suit made me feel like I was a loser.
You weren't being yourself.
Correct. And when I didn't have to wear it, I wouldn't wish a global pandemic on anybody, but that was the greatest thing that ever happened to our family. Everything that I had been rallying against, we should have a wellness program here, or we shouldn't have to come to work, every single day, or all of the things that I was rallying against and pushing that boulder uphill, and at that point we had grown from 45 to 200 people. All of a sudden, all bets are off. I didn't have to fight that anymore. I could do whatever I wanted to do. So the beard came in, and the all black outfits went on, and I wasn't covering up my tattoos anymore, and I could.
What's the proper name of the hat? I mean, what do you?
It's a beanie.
It's a beanie.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get you one.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay. I could use it.
Bald
Right,
guys
right.
love hats, by the way. That's another thing. So, yeah. Okay, what is that? So now I get to do the speaking stuff, which is really a lot of fun. And I was in New York speaking at YPO last year, Young Presidents Organization. They have these chapters all over the world, which is really cool. And I got invited to speak in New York. And one of the slides in my presentation is entertainment industry Greg on the left with all the hair and the sunglasses. And then kind of puffy, pasty, balding, fatter Greg in the middle. And then the dad bod guy, on the right when Auden was young. And then it evolves into kind of where we are now, or closer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's on the top of the mountain in Snow Basin, Utah, where my friend Doug and I climbed the equivalent of Mount Everest in this Jesse Itzler event. If anybody's familiar with Jesse Itzler, Jesse's my midlife idol, entrepreneur, success story, crazy athlete. And they give you 36 hours and you hike up the mountain and you gondola down and you repeat it over and over again for 36 hours straight until you've climbed 29,029 feet.
And haven't you done that a few times? You did more than once, didn't you?
So now I've done it twice, and Kate's going back. We're doing it again, third time. We're going to do it. But last year we did it in Whistler, which was beautiful. This was really hot. That was bad. Whistler was, and this year coming up for year 3, we're going to do it in Mont Tremblant, which is outside of Montreal, I guess.
I went to camp there.
Okay. So I heard it's beautiful. But here's the cool thing, and this is where the business and this is where the brand has gone. Year 1, I did it with a couple of buddies and had to talk them into it. Year 2, last year in Whistler, Kate came with me, and I did it alone. I wanted to see what it would be like to take on the challenge alone in the dark by myself, and she didn't climb it, but she came with me, and we made it. And now this year, we're bringing 20 midlife guys that have signed up to do it.
Should we do this? Want to do it? Yeah, sorry. When you're not full, let us know.
You checked. You're I'm not getting roped into this one. He's it's already full. But that's the cool thing is that as a brand now, because I've gone out and I've done a lot of these different things and tried to find these different challenges and experiences for men, depending upon what you're looking for, that's become a big part of the brand, is that I'm kind of the guinea pig who goes out and says, look, if you want to test yourself this way, I write about the experience and I go out and I do it. I tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. If you want to go sit in a circle and cry and hold hands, I just spent a week at Modern Elder Academy in Todos Santos, if that's your thing. If you want to go train with the Navy SEALs, I did that, last year. So I'm taking on these events and these challenges and reporting back to the guys to say, look, anything you want in life is actually out there. It exists, it's possible, okay? You just have to be willing to take it on and to try it, and again, find what's right for you.
What's been the hardest so far? Would you put this in the top of the list?
That's definitely hard. It's more just monotonous, and you just got to deal with the monotony of going up and going down and going up and getting tired. The hardest was the Navy SEAL activation weekend that I did last year, which was in Brooklyn on a closed Army base, and we were on the beach, at 4 a.m., and it's cold in that water. And these SEALs put us through, they put us through hell for hours and hours. And you're cold, and you're wet, and you're miserable, and you can't get out. And you can't get out of it. That was the hardest. It was shorter, but harder.
Here we go. The craze going across the nation here.
So we've upgraded from this, and this is another part of the process and kind of developing rules and following the practices of saying, okay, even with cold immersion and contrast therapy, which is hot and cold and something I'm a huge proponent of, it starts with cold showers, then it becomes a tub with ice in it. Then it became a converted chest freezer that we built, and I almost electrocuted myself in there. And now, quite frankly, it's a $10,000 cold plunge that runs 24/7 sitting in our backyard at 39 degrees, although Kate likes it at 45 in there. And it's the process, though, of kind of testing and retesting and trying what works for you. And then evolving into, do I want to make this investment? Do I want this to be part of my lifestyle? If so, then it's worth purchasing this and having it there. And so all of this kind of is progress as a process. And how do you work the process and ultimately enjoy, again, not focus on the outcome, but focus and fixate on enjoying the actual process.
Speaking event?
Yeah, Detroit, in a casino of all places, at a conference. And what's cool about this, at least to me, is, this was also last year, and just, you talked about how do you judge yourself, now and harshly. But it is gratifying that this has gone from me writing in the backyard every Sunday morning and not even wanting to read what I wrote, just like pushing send and then closing the computer as quickly as possible and saying, I hope nobody even sends me an email about this, to, wow, people are really reading this and they're grasping on to the message, and I'm getting asked to speak in front of big crowds. And what we've come up with, the 5 rules and the 6 F's and how to transform and all that people are, actually was talking to a guy the other day, and he had posted even something on Instagram, and it was one of my quotes. And I was like, oh, that's great. Where'd you see that? He wrote back, he's like, I saw it posted somewhere. And I was like, oh, okay, that's mine. Like, it's actually it's nice to be ripped off a little bit in there. And when you see some of that stuff happening, and you're getting on bigger stages and people are reaching out, and you said in 250 something episodes of the podcast, that's probably 2,000 no's. 2,000 people that have said no, they won't come on. Because the show doesn't have enough listeners, or I don't know who you are, or I don't like the content, or I don't like you. So, it's always working through the rejection too. You're not gonna write a hit song every Sunday. Every post is not going to go well. You're going to get smacked around. The guest that you want is not the guest that you're always going to get. It's that constant, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's what it is. So it's not that, it's harder to judge yourself for your successes and things that are going well when you tend to fixate on the shit that's not going well.
And this is a picture of you and your dad?
That's the last picture I have.
Yeah.
So he passed away January 16th, 1992. Costa Rica? Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Auden, Harper, Kate.
Very nice.
Yes.
So, jumping into something in the book that caught my attention, and by the way, it's a great book. And I think everybody, male or, just whatever your age, I think there's a lot of useful information in there that I found inspirational and motivating for me. Tell us about Carlos.
He's actually a real person. Yeah, so that was one of the earlier newsletter posts about, what would Carlos do? And I've always had this idea of, again, like the guy that just does the right thing. That man that gets it right, that guy that is secure, that guy that is not trying to please anybody, that guy who makes the right decision, the stand-up guy, the honorable guy, and what would Carlos do in this situation? He actually owns the original CrossFit Houston out by U of H. He's actually, I modeled it, it's actually, wasn't even smart enough to change his name in there. And he still comes over to the house to work out, and he's in his 50s, and he's married to an amazing woman named Lisa. And the guy just knows who he is, and that's the thing. He just knows who he is, and he's secure with himself. And
I just thought it was interesting the way you had it. You're just like, what would Carlos do?
And that's, when, again, I don't think I've always made the right choices or the right decisions or even my natural instinct or gut. I think can be a little questionable or a lot questionable at times. So it was like, hey, what would Carlos do? That kind of moral compass, that kind of standard that you would set for yourself.
Brian, but you got a Carlos?
Akiba, Moses, C.J. Stroud now. That's good. Different faith, but man of God. What about you?
Mine's probably more of a Linda and less of a Carlos.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah, mine's a Linda. And she seems to kind of, be able to know when to weigh in on something. Of course, it's my final decision at the end, but, if you wouldn't just nod along.
But that's interesting. Nobody's asked me about that particular chapter before, and thank you for that. I think that one means something.
All right, we're going to, I think we wanted to, there's a lot here. We barely scratched the surface with stuff, but we did want to leave time that I'm sure there's probably a few questions. But we wanted to go into kind of in the spirit of what is chapter 14, 1 or 2, and by the way, my father's an ophthalmologist, he's over here. And so my whole life I've heard, which is better, 1 or 2? And I'm thinking, how can you say that all day long to people? But,
but it works.
Yeah, it works.
It does.
But it does help you see. You finally get the metaphor of getting clarity after you kind of say, well, I don't like this, I don't like this. So in that spirit, I'm going to just kind of ask you just, this or that, just whatever comes to your mind. If you want to say a couple, expound a little bit. But so here we go. Running or rowing?
Rowing.
Steak or tofu?
Steak. Please.
No hesitation. Sauna or cold plunge?
Sauna.
Jiu-jitsu or boxing?
Boxing. I can't move my shoulder right now from the jiu-jitsu.
Because the jiu-jitsu's a recent
His arm
thing,
is not moved in the last hour.
Meditation or writing?
Writing.
Do you meditate on a regular basis?
Terrible at it. I do box breathing instead. That works for me.
Okay, box breathing.
So box breathing is like pattern breathing. For those of us who, I heard the question. Yeah, so it's like pattern breathing for those of us who don't want to sit in silence because the meditation is really, really difficult. So you are inhaling for a certain number of seconds, holding your breath for a certain number of seconds, exhaling for a certain number of seconds, holding, and you're repeating this pattern over and over again to kind of control your heart rate, get calmer. And there are apps for it as well.
Okay, this one, I don't know if it's sensitive, but nothing seems to be sensitive with you. Botox or testosterone?
Both.
Okay. Well, there aren't a lot of men that talk about that stuff, so I commend you on being, again, you're very open.
Come on over. Subscribe at Midlife Male. We talk about all of it, okay?
Great. No, it's great. Okay, finally, cool shirt or shirtless?
Shirtless.
There you go.
Come on.
Oh, wait.
Come on.
That was a recent post, right? Was it not?
Was the show, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had to break that out. We had to break that out.
Terrible.
Do you want us to leave it up?
No.
Okay. You want to go back?
No.
Okay.
Well, this was good. This was great. Maybe,
For you.
yeah, maybe midlife males.
There was some chemistry. Midlife males.
I see a roundtable podcast in the future
Yeah.
right now.
And I was just thinking while we're sitting up here, if you wanted to brand extend into late life males, that I've got my dad and my brother over here, and I got a starter group.
We're in. I mean, this has got to grow. You got to scale, right? I mean,
Yeah. So we got a platform.
we got to look at the next phase.
Okay. Anyway, this was fantastic. And we would like to open it up if there are anybody who wants to ask any question, really anything.
It's a great question. I actually get asked that all the time. There's a chapter about the seventh F. It's not that one either in the book. It's not one of the six that I talk about. And as far as kind of where I sit with it or how I see it, whatever you believe in, whatever faith means to you. And we're not particularly religious. I think we're very spiritual. And I think we try to, operate and have our lives, under our moral and ethical and spiritual values. But this wasn't about, to me, a religious brand or having religious connotations around it. So it just wasn't really where I went with it.
Martin, do you have a question?
I had a couple, actually. The first one was, if you're willing, elaborate a little on the role of testosterone. And then the second one is...
Yeah, so I went on testosterone replacement therapy at 49, and I'm 51 now. And I started getting my blood work done on an annual basis in my early 40s. And back then, I was competing at a relatively high level in certain events like decathlons and other things, and I definitely found myself competing against guys in the over 40 bracket that I knew were taking in there. And I always shied away from it and didn't want to get involved in it. It had all of the stereotypes, preconceived notions. I was on the side of, staying all natural and not doing that. And over time, what happened is my testosterone levels started dropping, as it does for men over 40, 41, 42, and I'm burning the candle from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I go pretty hard in the paint, and my performance is going down, and my recovery is going down, and I just don't have the energy that I had before. So it wasn't about getting bigger, faster, stronger. I was already bald. It wasn't about any of the other stereotypes that were going on with it. For me, it was pure energy. I was lacking energy to do the things that I want to do and that I really enjoy doing the way that I want to do them. So in consultation with my physician over years, eventually at 49, I made the decision to go on it. And I've had an incredibly positive experience with it. I'm not any stronger. I don't have any, my body weight hasn't changed at all. I'm just as bald as I was before. But my energy level has improved. My moods have improved, my energy level has improved, my recovery has improved because of it. My capacity is better or back to where it was. So my goal with it, and now I get my blood work done every 90 days, is my goal with it is minimum effective dose. What is the minimum effective dose that you can take in order to have a healthy testosterone level for a 51-year-old guy? A lot of white space between trying to go be Mr. Olympia and take all these, and actually saying, look, I'd like to have a healthy, on the upper end of the spectrum of a 51-year-old guy level. So I monitor that really carefully. And it's not for everybody, but a lot of the stuff that I talk about now publicly is, hey, listen, I really don't care what you do. I only care if you lie about it. Like, just tell the truth about it. Whatever you put on your body, whatever you put in your body, if you're putting yourself out there, somebody asks you, answer the question honestly.
I do.
Pretty adamant about solid rather than a close punch.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious about how that came about.
Anybody that tells you that they enjoy sitting in 39-degree water for minutes at a time is lying, okay? They are lying. It is far more bearable and enjoyable to sit in a sauna for 15 or 20 minutes than it is to go into the cold plunge for a few minutes at a time or at all. So now I like how I feel after the cold plunge. So again, the reason why you get comfortable being uncomfortable and you do this is because the residual effects of the cold therapy and immersion, as well as the heat, really decrease lactic acid buildup, they increase circulation, they improve energy levels and blood flows. And it's really a fantastic feeling when you make it a practice in your life. But the sauna is definitely easier.
All right, let's do one more question.
Sounds to me like you've been running from yourself, chasing yourself, challenging yourself. You gotta feel good about where you are in life right now and what you're doing. Not some of the failures that got you. You gotta feel good. I gotta thank you.
I do. Thank you. Yes. And a lot of this, as it's still kind of a journey, and we talk about the next phase of life being the best phase of life and how we're going to maximize that and how we're going to make the most of it, is actually stopping to be grateful and appreciative of where you are, that I'm farther than my father ever got. Our relationship is wonderful, 23 years. Beautiful wife, amazing kids. I'm able to get to do what I really enjoy doing right now. The number of positive emails and feedback and things far outweigh the negative ones, that come in. And there's no longer this feeling of trying to please the unpleasable, including myself, but just let this stuff happen, And, look, if you can follow the rules, knowing what's important is what's most important. Okay, that's the family aspect of this. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. That's have that map and follow your plan. If you're able to aggregate, curate, and eliminate from everything out there, you actually understand where your beliefs are. Show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities. Is it right there? If you tell me your family, your fitness, all these things are important, you should be able to open up your calendar and show me that. And the last one is grace, gratitude, and latitude. We are way too hard on ourselves. So at some point during this entire process, you got to stop and show yourself and everybody else a little grace, gratitude, and latitude along the way. And if you can do those 5 things and stick with that, you're going to be pretty good.
Well, great way to end. Let's give Greg a big round of applause. Thank you. I highly recommend the book, whether you're a man or woman. And as a woman, you could learn a lot as well, or tell your husband about it. And I highly recommend Greg's newsletter. I look forward to reading it every week. Greg, thank you. It always was a pleasure to see you. It was such a joy for us to have you guys at our Seder this past year. We'll do it again. I know you guys went to Israel for the first time. Know that Beth, Yeshurun, you guys are always welcome. Love your sons. And so thank you for being here, taking time in your schedule. And I want to give a big thank you also to my friend Stephen Sheldon for all the work he does for this too. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you, guys.